At 03:14 a.m., the first cruise missile hits, then another, then 40 more. In this scenario, overwhelming firepower meets strategic exhaustion. Defense analysts assess this as a logistics trap disguised as total war. The attacker commits 70% of precision-guided munitions in the opening 24 hours. Wargame simulations suggest this level of expenditure cannot be sustained beyond 72 hours without catastrophic supply chain failure. Combat power breaks down how aggressive overreach becomes strategic suicide. The missiles fly, infrastructure burns. But the clock is ticking on something far more dangerous than explosions. The attacker is bleeding resources faster than defenders are losing assets. Day 1 looks like annihilation. Day 3 reveals the trap. This is warfare at the edge of industrial capacity, where raw force decides survival until logistics decides everything. The strike begins with saturation. Over 200 cruise missiles launch from mobile platforms positioned 400 miles from target zones. Flight time, 38 minutes. Defense systems activate immediately. Radar networks track incoming threats at Mach 0.7. Interception probability, 62% per missile. But volume overwhelms mathematics. When 200 threats arrive simultaneously, even advanced air defense burns through interceptors within 17 minutes. Power grids take direct hits. Fuel depots explode. Command bunkers go dark. By 04:30 a.m., 18 critical sites are destroyed or damaged. The attacker declares victory on state media. Analysts worldwide call it decisive. Combat power sees something else. The numbers tell a different story. 200 precision missiles fired means 200 precision missiles depleted. Manufacturing capacity for cruise missiles, 4 per month per facility. The attacker operates 6 known production sites. Monthly output, 24 missiles. Replacement time for today's expenditure, 8 months, and this is day 1. Which force breaks first? A. Air defense. B. Missile stockpiles. C. Command network. The answer determines who survives the next 72 hours. Defenders absorb the blow. Casualties mount. Infrastructure collapses in targeted zones. But defense doctrine anticipated saturation attacks. Redundant command centers activate within minutes. Mobile air defense units relocate to pre-planned positions. The critical difference: defenders are fighting on interior lines with short supply chains. Attackers are operating 400 miles from their logistics hubs. Every follow-up strike requires fuel, maintenance, intelligence updates, and coordination across multiple domains. At 09:00 a.m., the second wave launches. 80 missiles this time, smaller but still devastating. Defense systems, now dispersed and mobile, achieve 74% interception. 14 missiles reach targets. Damage is significant, but not catastrophic. The attacker has now expended 280 missiles in 6 hours. War planners estimate remaining precision stockpile, 120 missiles. Here's where combat power analysis reveals the mathematics of collapse. Precision-guided weapons require sophisticated components, guidance systems, satellite links, terrain mapping processors. These cannot be rapidly manufactured. Replacement parts come from specialized facilities with long production cycles. The attacker is burning through irreplaceable assets to destroy replaceable infrastructure. What happens next changes everything. By 18 hours, reconnaissance drones detect unusual activity at attacker launch sites. Missile transporter vehicles are repositioning, but fewer than expected. Intelligence intercepts reveal supply chain strain. Precision munitions are being rationed. The attacker faces a critical decision: continue high-intensity strikes and exhaust precision stockpiles within 48 hours, or reduce strike tempo and lose psychological momentum. Combat power thrives in this moment of strategic pressure. At 22:30 hours, the third wave launches. Only 40 missiles. Defense systems intercept 31. 9 reach targets. The strike pattern has changed. Instead of broad infrastructure targeting, missiles now focus on specific military assets: radar installations, ammunition depots, forward air bases. This is target prioritization born from scarcity. The attacker no longer has enough missiles to destroy everything, so they must choose what matters most. Defenders recognize the shift immediately. Reduced strike volume means degraded attacker capability. Mobile defense units begin counter-positioning. Long-range artillery systems, previously held in reserve to avoid counter-battery fire, now reposition for offensive operations. The battlefield equation is inverting. Day 2 begins at 04:00 a.m. Expected fourth wave doesn't materialize. Satellite imagery shows attacker logistics convoys stalled 180 miles from frontline launch positions. Fuel shortages are suspected. Road networks are congested. The operational tempo that enabled 24-hour bombardment is collapsing under its own weight. At 11:00 a.m., a small strike of 12 missiles targets a single power station. All 12 are intercepted. This is probe, not assault. The attacker is testing remaining defense capabilities while conserving dwindling stockpiles. Combat power analysis reveals what happens when industrial capacity cannot match operational ambition. The attacker becomes predictable, defensive systems adapt, and initiative transfers to the defender. Necessary defense or catastrophic overreach. The attacker committed to overwhelming force in the opening hours, betting that shock and devastation would break defender morale and capability before logistics became a limiting factor. But wars are not won in 24 hours. They are sustained through industrial output, supply chain resilience, and the ability to regenerate combat power faster than the enemy depletes it. The defender, though battered, retains functional command structure, mobile defense assets, and critically, a sustainable logistics pipeline. At 16 hours, defenders launch their first major counterstrike. 48 long-range artillery rockets hit attacker staging areas 220 miles behind the front. Satellite-guided munitions, held in reserve during the opening bombardment, now strike fuel depots, ammunition caches, and transportation nodes. The attacker's logistics network, already strained, begins to fracture. Without fuel, mobile missile launchers cannot reposition. Without munitions, follow-up strikes are impossible. Without transportation infrastructure, reinforcements cannot reach forward positions. This is the cascading failure that combat power predicted. Overextension leads to vulnerability, and vulnerability invites exploitation. Day 3 arrives with eerie quiet. No major strikes materialize. Reconnaissance indicates attacker forces are consolidating, not advancing. Mobile units are stationary. Launch platforms remain silent. Intelligence assessments confirm the attacker has fewer than 40 precision-guided missiles remaining. Doctrine requires maintaining a strategic reserve of at least 30% of total stockpile. This means operational availability is now in single digits. How many interceptors can one destroyer launch simultaneously? A. 24. B. 96. C. Over 200. The answer is C. Modern destroyers carry vertical launch systems with over 200 cells, capable of launching interceptors, cruise missiles, and anti-ship weapons. This capacity differential matters when an attacker depletes offensive stockpiles faster than defenders exhaust defensive ones. At 09 hours, defenders launch a coordinated, multi-domain offensive. 50 artillery strikes hit logistics hubs. 12 air sorties target radar and communications infrastructure. Cyber operations disrupt attacker command networks. This is not revenge. This is exploitation of induced weakness. The attacker, having spent 70% of precision munitions in 3 days, now lacks the capability to respond effectively. Remaining missiles are held for strategic deterrence, not tactical employment. The battlefield has inverted completely. At 14 hours, attacker forces begin withdrawing from forward positions. Official statements cite operational redeployment. Combat power analysis reveals the truth. They no longer possess the firepower to sustain offensive operations or defend captured territory against combined arms counterattack. Withdrawal is not choice. It is necessity dictated by ammunition shortages, fuel constraints, and degraded logistics capacity. By 20 hours, defenders have reclaimed 40% of initially lost territory. Attacker forces retreat to defensible positions closer to their logistics bases. The war that began with overwhelming missile saturation now devolves into static defense because one side ran out of bullets. If combat power decides wars, type combat power. But remember, raw force without sustainable logistics is just expensive fireworks. The attacker launched over 330 precision missiles in 72 hours. Manufacturing replacement stock will require 14 months. The defender fired 140 interceptors and 48 counter-strike munitions. Domestic production capacity can replace these within 90 days. This is the mathematics that decides modern warfare. Not who strikes first or hardest, but who can regenerate combat power while the enemy cannot. Wargame simulations consistently show that ammunition expenditure rates in high-intensity conflict exceed pre-war projections by 300%. Militaries plan for sustained operations lasting months. Reality delivers ammunition exhaustion in days. The side with robust domestic production, diversified supply chains, and strategic reserves wins not through superior tactics, but through superior logistics. The attacker learned this lesson at catastrophic cost. By day 5, the front has stabilized 100 miles behind the attacker's initial advance. Territory gained in the opening bombardment is now lost. Strategic objectives remain unachieved. Precision-guided stockpiles are depleted. Industrial base cannot regenerate capability for over a year. Meanwhile, defenders transition from emergency response to deliberate counteroffensive. Fresh units, held in reserve during the initial crisis, now deploy forward. Ammunition stocks, though reduced, remain operationally sufficient. Most critically, production lines continue operating, churning out interceptors, artillery shells, and guided munitions at sustainable rates. What would you order next? Continue pressing the offensive while the enemy is weak. Consolidate gains and rebuild depleted stocks. Negotiate from a position of renewed strength. Combat power shows that military decisions are never purely tactical. They are industrial, economic, and logistical. The battlefield is where strategies collide, but wars are won in factories, supply depots, and transportation networks. The attacker's opening bombardment looked devastating. It was devastating. 18 critical facilities destroyed, hundreds of casualties, infrastructure damage requiring months to repair. But infrastructure can be rebuilt. Precision-guided missiles, once expended, cannot be quickly replaced. The attacker traded irreplaceable offensive capability for replaceable defensive losses. This is the trap, mistaking destruction for victory. By day 7, international analysts declare the offensive a strategic failure. The attacker expended the majority of its precision strike capability, failed to achieve operational objectives, lost recaptured territory, and now faces a regenerated defender with intact logistics and growing offensive capacity. Combat power called this outcome on day 1. The numbers were always visible: 200 missiles in the first strike, 80 in the second, 40 in the third, 12 in the fourth. The trajectory was obvious: exponential decline in strike capability due to ammunition exhaustion. The attacker bet on shock. The defender survived through depth. Shock fades, depth endures. Raw force decides survival, but logistics decides everything. The tactical quiz answer: modern destroyers can simultaneously launch over 200 missiles from vertical launch systems. This capacity, combined with reload capability from nearby supply ships, creates a defensive depth that missile saturation cannot overcome unless the attacker possesses virtually unlimited stockpiles. No military does. All militaries face industrial constraints. The question is not whether you will run out of ammunition. The question is whether you run out before the enemy does. In this scenario, the attacker ran out first. The lessons are clear. Overwhelming force without sustainable logistics is temporary. High-intensity conflict consumes ammunition faster than peacetime production can replace. The side with diversified supply chains, domestic manufacturing capacity, and strategic reserves possesses decisive advantage in protracted conflict. Victory goes not to who strikes hardest, but to who can keep striking when the enemy cannot. Combat power exists to analyze these realities without ideology or politics. Pure combat calculus. The attacker launched 330 missiles and lost the war. The defender fired 140 interceptors and won. Mathematics decided the outcome long before the last missile flew. This is modern warfare, industrial capacity wrapped in explosive packages. Could this scenario be prevented? Should wars be fought this way? What does this say about the future of conflict? These are questions beyond combat power's scope. We analyze what happens when combat systems collide at maximum intensity. We break down the mathematics of violence. We show how logistics, not bravery, determines survival. Subscribe to Combat Power, where raw force decides survival, but supply chains decide wars. No mercy, no pause. Combat Power.